Hello, this is Jeremy Webster. I'm here for Collector's Maze, and I am here today with K.J Kruk, author of Leo Gray and the Lunar Eclipse. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Wichita is a bit dreary today. We're just above freezing, and we've had like rain nonstop for like 16 hours now, it feels like.
Yuck.
Good day to hide inside. So KJ here is an artist and writer with her. This is your first novel, Leo Gray and the Lunar Eclipse?
Yeah, this is my first little baby, Leo Gray and the Lunar Eclipse. Yep, there it is.
Very nice. And she did all the illustrations as well. And says that the plot centers around a group of kids who have adventures within a city that's within the moon. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the story follows an 11-year-old science prodigy who he lives in the future year 2113. But his family, they live like, it's still 2013. So they're a bit of a retro family in the future. And so he, as you can imagine, is pretty embarrassed by that fact. And the new city inside of the moon also has a school. So he desperately wants to go there. But his father, again, his old-time fuddy-duddy father, doesn't want him to have anything to do with the government competition that's going on to win his way to Luna City. And there's some reasons for that, but they're not revealed in book one. So he kind of gets a bit of a bad rap for being a mean dad, but there's some secrets behind there that'll be revealed later. So finally, Leo does win his way to school on the moon. But when he gets there, he quickly learns that Luna City isn't all it's cracked up to be, that there are certainly some mysteries going on behind the government doors there, as far as why the city was actually built. So he, at the very end of the novel, has to decide, if he is going to save Earth and his family, or if he is going to save Luna City and all of his new friends.
Kind of interesting. So there's actually a conflict between terrestrial Earth and the moon in some way, the moon civilization. Yeah. A lot of YA type novels over the last, 10, 15 years have taken a pretty dystopian turn. Even if you use, like, for example, Harry Potter, even though it didn't start that way, like books 6 and 7 are very, very dark. But a lot of it, like the Maze Runner and Mockingjay, that series, the Hunger Games, have a very dystopian feel.
Yes, I have seen the Hunger Games. That gets pretty like graphic, for, even YA, you're still, young, right? So.
How would you say that you get a good balance of fun with the serious topics in yours?
I know yes, I would,
a lot of these books lack.
We are a bit more utopian than dystopian, but with everything in life, there's dark and there's light. So there's this evil species of aliens called Mlekorgs, and they consume time, which is kind of interesting. You have to read the book to learn more about that. But yeah, so there, at the end, he ends up, finding a bad guy, and they have sort of this ultimate sort of duel where Leo's clinging for his life, and this creature is trying to take his life away, and also trying to take away everybody's life inside of Luna City, which is pretty, that's dark, but I think it's presented in a way that's light enough where, as a kid, you can read it and not be traumatized by it.
Science fiction is always, it's interesting that there's always been sort of a niche for the young reader with science fiction. If you look at a lot of the, Asimov even wrote under a pseudonym a number of science fiction novels that were for children or young adults. And this sounds very much in that vein, something that is also exploring something, teaching something while engaging in a story. Would you say that sounds like an approach you sort of took here.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because after I've reflected on the story a little bit myself, it's kind of artistic take of my own life story. I was a kid, like art prodigy growing up, and I went away to boarding school for the arts when I was 14, and so I moved away from home pretty early, had all this recognition at a young age, and then finally, when I went to college, I was like, you know what, I don't know that this is where I want to be, right? So kind of the same sort of story for Leo was, part of my life story as well. So I don't know, I didn't really write it thinking, that I was going to be teaching anything, or first and foremost, I didn't write it thinking I was writing a book. So I did not think anybody would ever read it at all, until I got kind of, like 50,000 words in, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to take shape here. It's not just journal writing anymore. So yeah.
Like the old story of writing your first novel on napkins, just no one's ever going to read this, right?
I got a little fancier than a napkin. I did write it on a computer, and partly, mainly I would do like these sketches, kind of plot sketches, just on pen and paper when I was at the beach. So
one thing I love about your online entity, not just of the book, but of you yourself and the entire universe you sort of have going, is there's a whimsy to it. For example, a lot of your online profiles say that you recognize this galaxy and you found the remains. There's something almost wonderfully Doctor Who-ish about it. Like you've been everywhere and you've done everything.
I'm also 300,000 years old. So
okay.
Just don't tell anybody. Just don't tell anybody.
You get to change your body out too every so often, or you just keep...
Yes, I definitely, I'm forgetting the word. It's not is it regenerate?
Yeah.
Regenerate? I'm too tired today.
You're too tired and you turn into someone else.
Yeah.
So you also illustrated the novel.
Yes, let's go ahead.
I was just going to ask, was there any like inspiration to how you approach those drawings, or?
Well, sure. I think, the thing with illustration for me is, again, I had this fine arts background. I've always been just a classical, traditional portrait artist.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I was that girl scribbling cartoons all day, doing little illustrations all day. But when I was like 16 and my parents were like, well, what are you going to do with your art? What are you going to do with that? Right. And I was proposed the idea of doing children's illustrations, but I was like, oh, that's for, kids. That's not for somebody who's trying to become an adult. Right.
Yeah.
I completely dismissed that idea, until I had to go way back, backtrack quite a bit to get into illustration again. But for me, the trickiest part was just being able to find that like freedom to be able to start to draw again, because I had this really, really long period of time where I was kind of, again, like Leo, in a life coma. And I couldn't draw, I couldn't paint, I couldn't do anything that I loved to do. And so it was difficult for me to remember that I could actually draw and that I was able to allow myself to do that.
That's pretty awesome. You said you had a fine arts background. You ever won any awards or anything?
Yes, I did. I mean, I won the top art scholarship at every school I applied to, despite throwing that education down the drain and then going off to do real estate, right? So yeah. So, but I mean, I guess I did come back now that I'm writing, but throughout my youth, I was always in these little competitions and winning awards and having my work shown at different little local galleries and all that fun stuff.
It's interesting how over time we sort of develop a toolbox of things we kind of know, and then we sort of put them on a shelf, and there comes some point in the future that toolbox may become useful again, but it's not useful in the same way that we initially thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely had to go through some growing.
Let's see. Our website has a feature called the Online Lunar Academy. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so this is so exciting. before I got into real estate too, and after my fine arts degree, that didn't fully take place, I was debating becoming a teacher, and, you know, teaching young kids art or doing something like that. And so I initially, um, well, immediately actually, when I finished writing the book, I knew that it had to be teachable in some way, but not in the generic sense of like, oh, you know, read a chapter and regurgitate everything you learned,
Right.
right? I wanted it to be fun and exciting and not just, you know, generic, you know, author handouts that you can just easily get from for most guys. And at the same time, with the background I had being kind of highlighted as this, you know, kid prodigy in the arts, as an adult, I've looked back and I've seen, you know, every kid has that opportunity. If they're given, you know, the opportunity to see what they love and, you know, do what they love. And we can easily help kids with that just by, you know, when you're reading a book, instead of making it all English regurgitation for kids that are, you know, into STEM, right? Math or
Right.
science. You can have them presented in a way that's comfortable for them, right? And we
Mhm.
can work with their talents instead of just always working with, you know, the curriculum.
Yeah, as a parent myself, when I went to that section of the website, I was wowed at all the forethought that had gone into that.
Thank you.
Mhm. It really seemed neat, and I think I'm gonna do that with my daughter actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's-
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting it put together, and I have a wonderful team in India that we've been working with, but it is a tremendous amount of work to put together an online academy. So I kept telling everybody I was going to have it done 2 years ago, and just everything got backtracked with COVID, and now everything's going again, but just slow, 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 slow.
Right. So the book is of course, you know, ostensibly a YA science fiction fantasy type adventure. Were you yourself a fan of fantasy science fiction?
I wish I was that cool growing up. I really do. I was such a nerd and loner and loser, and it seems like it would have been great for me if I had found some book that would have caught my intrigue. Because as an adult, I love science fiction. I love, like, Doctor Who is one of my favorites, and you know,
Favorite
it's
doctor.
like, sorry,
Favorite doctor.
favorite Doctor, Tenet.
Yeah.
Tenet, yes.
I, I'm
Yeah,
probably a,
my husband and I get into this conversation all the time.
I'm probably a bit older, Baker's mind. But anyway,
Okay.
the first one, the scarf one, not the guy in the nightmare coat. Uh,
Okay.
sorry, but go ahead.
I forgot where we were.
Science fiction.
Yeah, so I mean, it took me getting older to appreciate, you know, sci-fi, but definitely with my book as well, that was something when I realized I was writing science fiction,
Mhm.
um, that I felt kind of strongly about not having the books being all just like space wars, you know, because
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. And I think when I was younger, that was kind of what turned me away from like the genre as a whole.
the violence of it.
Yeah, 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 and just like, you know, the boy toys and the super techie, like, sci-fi jargon that gets thrown around so often. And so,
Yeah,
yes, mine is definitely more of a, Dr. Seuss sort of take on sci-fi.
because there tends to be, yeah, there either tends to be this sort of heavy militarized, violent sort of conquest of space sort of approach, or like the well, Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, where it's all based around a um, military subjugation using
Yeah,
children. Very
yeah, and oddly enough, I still ended up with the whole military thing kind of but it's more in the background than in
Mhm.
the foreground, at least in book one.
Yeah, that or the what they call hard science fiction, which is no, we're going into all the technical details of everything. And they can both, they have their audiences, but they can be very dry reads. People want to visit your website and have a look at the books and everything. Where could they go and check out your page?
Yes, so it's Leo, Leo, Gray, like the color, Gray, leograybooks.com, and or at Leo Gray Books. Please follow us because I was really delayed on making social media accounts for my brand when I launch the book, because I'm kind of anti-social media. So that would be great if you guys quickly go follow at Leo Gray Books, or me personally is Kruk, Kruk Galaxy.
And it's a phenomenal looking website, very easy to navigate, and it's very colorful. I quite enjoyed it. And you say you built your website yourself?
I did. Yes, I did.
Wow.
So
How did you get so web savvy?
How did I get, I was forced to. Is at the time when I was, again, starting my vacation rental business. I was 20 some years old. I didn't have a heap of money, in my back pocket to pay somebody to do it for me. So I just had to do my research and learn to figure it out myself. So yes, everything Leo Gray, I do all the copy, I do all the web ads, all of the social media posts, the magazine. I do my own magazine photography, pretty much all of the editing I do myself. One person show, pretty much.
One person show. I noticed another site on your another section of your site talks about the Superstellar Dream Scholarship. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we just started it, we just opened it up. But what that's all about is my personal way, just one, to say thanks to all of my fans for, supporting my work and my way of giving back to the community, because that's so important. But what it aims to do is to help encourage and inspire other kids who have, awesome humanitarian ambitions to move forward with their dreams.
Very, very nifty. So where are some good places that our viewers, I guess, not listeners? I used to do radio, so listeners came by, but actually viewers. Where are some good places they can go and pick up the book?
Well, I guess we were in Barnes and Noble. I'm not sure. We're kind of getting since COVID, everything is getting limited to which ones we're at. So select Barnes and Nobles, online, of course, Amazon, every main major retailer you can think of online. We're at select bookstores. But I really first ask that you go ask a local bookstore and support them right now, because times are tough for everybody, but especially the small guys.
The little bookstores need the help. Yeah, that's been pretty bad on them.
Yes.
And show us the book again. Hold it up.
Okay. Yes, this is it. Leo Gray and the Lunar Eclipse. It's got some awards, which has completely baffled me. I don't even know how that happened.
You got some flash stickers. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those cool little nifty stickers. And this is the back. And then we also have recently produced. Ooh. These are lunalings, little creatures that live inside of the moon. And this one's Grimlu. And he can move. And pretty soon, not yet, you're going to get one with, when you squeeze his tummy, he's going to say a lot of little phrases to you. And I did all the voice work for that. So that will be really interesting, interesting to hear.
Have you done voice work before at all?
I haven't. I guess when I was, in school, when I would do speech class, I would always give myself a little goofy accent just for the part of me that I always wanted to do theater and never got to.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of go off in different accents around the house pretty frequently. And so I've got my narrator voice. I have the voice of when I tell different sort of stories to other people, all over the place. I'm just all over the place.
Cool. Well, everybody, you want to visit KJ, you can go to www.leograybooks.com and pick up your copy of Leo Gray and the Lunar Eclipse. KJ, it was very nice speaking with you today.
Yep. Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Absolutely. And good luck. And I hope you make it through everything going on without any issues or getting sick or anything like that.
Oh, I'll be fine. I'm a trooper.
Thank you.